In the Revel, the batteries and the inverter are installed behind this cover here, and they can produce a lot of heat. The batteries will warm up when they're charged or discharged. The battery management system will get hot, especially when they are charging the batteries. And also the inverter, when it is running and depending on how much power it produces, can get really, really warm. So there's a lot of heat built up behind this cover here. And for most people, or for most Revels I should say, I don't think that is a problem. There are two vents here and then one down here, and they allow for some air circulation, so it doesn't get super hot and well inside of the specifications of both the batteries and the battery management system. However, we use the AC a lot when we are parked outside one of our local animal shelters here, when we bring in the cats for their checkups, for surgery, whatever, right? And we want to cool the van down with the AC running off the inverter and running off the batteries. And in the boiling heat, I mean, we are out there in the sun, the AC is cooling, the inverter is getting hot, the batteries are getting hot, and then on the way home we are charging the batteries. The second alternator up front will charge the batteries, which puts even more heat inside of this little cubby hole. So I had it happen once that the batteries shut down because the BMS system, the battery management system, simply overheated, and that's not a good thing. So what I want to do today is, in addition to those passive two vents here, I want to install a third one, an active one, a little fan that increases air circulation and hopefully drops it by just a few degrees inside of here, that the battery system, even in those super hot conditions, will no longer overheat. And originally I thought I just installed one of those PC fans. This is like a 120 millimeter square PC 12 volts fan. Just plug it into power with the little switch, turn it on whenever I need it. And then I thought I'd make it a little bit better by adding a thermostat like this one. This is really cheap, costs about $10 on Amazon. You can set an upper temperature, and when it heats up to that temperature, it will turn the fan on, and then when it drops below that set temperature, within a couple of degrees, it will turn the fan off again. So this could automate the whole thing as long as the thermostat is running. Well, then I found this. This is the AirPlate S5 from AC Infinity. And this is really an all-in-one and plug-and-play solution. This is a unit with two 80 millimeter fans inside of a nice housing. It runs on USB power. It has an inline speed controller. So with this one you can set it to off, low, medium and high. And well, the other one, the other side, simply plugs into a USB connection. So with this one, it would have been just plug and play. I can mount this one, plug it into USB power, and then control it with this switch. But wait, there's more. Because AC Infinity makes a whole system. These fan units come in different configuration and sizes, and they also make really good looking controllers. So this one here, this is basically the much nicer looking version of this one, with the same functionality, right? You can set up an upper temperature, and when that temperature is reached, the fan turns on. If the temperature drops, the fan turn off, and then they also offer speed control for the fans. Overall, much nicer looking, and I mean, not that expensive. This controller cost me, I think, $40 on Amazon, and then the fan unit with the two smaller fans cost, I think, $30. And those two fans, they have a CFM, cubic feet per minute, of 52. I don't know how much volume that little cubby hole has where the inverter and the batteries are, but it's a lot less than 52 cubic feet. So in about a minute, this one can basically suck out all the air. And I know there's restrictions and it's not a really nice flow, but it should have enough power to really get the air circulation running in that little cubby hole. And I also bought this, not sure if you can see that. This is a little DC to DC converter, turning 12 volt input voltage into 5 volt, which is USB output voltage, because this AC Infinity system runs on 5 volts because, well, USB power. And what's readily available in the van obviously is 12 volts. So with this one, I can step it down from 12 to 5. Now I need to find a nice spot to mount this fan unit into, and I think from an airflow perspective it would be perfect up here, but this surface is slightly curved, and if I just dropped it in here it wouldn't really sit flat. If I had a 3D printer, I could print some sort of a bracket that it sits in and still be flat and wobble free, but I don't have a 3D printer. So my next best option is to mount it down here in the same flat area as these two vents sit in. It will be behind this little netting thing, but I'm not going to use that. I can take it off or just don't put anything in, and there will be enough airflow through this mesh, I guess. So that's what I'm going to do. I will put it in here and then see how that works. AC Infinity provides this little cut template. So I just need to align this with those lines. Or perhaps I need to mount it a little crooked so it looks more as it came from the Winnebago factory. And I'm putting it towards the right hand side because over here in this area there's a little box inside of this little cubby hole where the switch for the battery heater is. So I think if I offset it here, this is where most of the open space is behind this cover. So let's see if it fits. Yep. Now I need to drill the 4 mounting holes. And the AC Infinity kit comes with a bunch of fasteners. So they give you machine screws, which is what I'm going to use. But they also put in wood screws. So if you put this fan unit into a cabinet, which is actually what it was originally designed for, to vent AV cabinets like your whatever PlayStation 5 or VCR or DVD player, whatever, if it sits inside of a cabinet. But anyway, have to drill the holes, put it in. I just noticed, not sure if you can see that on camera, but this is actually a front and a back plastic cover, and there's a little bit of a gap here between those 2 layers. I'm going to glue in another piece of plastic that goes into the gap, and that kind of acts like as a shim. So if I screw down the little bolts, it doesn't compress into the gap. It should be a little more stable. And with that, it is fully functional. The cable with the switch is long enough to reach up to this USB plug up here, and then there's enough slack in the cable that it can be routed behind the mattress, and then I tried that before. I can tape it to the wall, and I mean, this would totally work, right? But I want to make it a little prettier, not have this cable on the outside, and I want to use that control panel up front. So that's what I'm gonna install next. I want to install the control panel here where all the other controls are. It is too big to actually fit inside of this black panel, so I'm going to install it above it, right here. But before I start cutting holes into the panel, I want to make sure I can actually route the cable from down here all the way across to below the bench seat, and then up behind this wall to where the panel will be. I think I can go below the shower pen. This panel here is just clipped in. So with that removed, I think I have plenty of space to snake the cable through. I need to run two cables. One is a regular USB extension cable. This is what runs the fans. And then these two wires, these are for the temperature sensor that I need to extend from over here up to the control panel. This was actually way easier than I thought. It's wide open here. This is under the bench seat, and I'm not sure if you can see that, but it is open over here, and this is under the shower pan on this side. So it's actually very easy to snake the cable through. Just need to fish it out. That's right here. So, and with that, I have my cable under the bench seat. And just like the fan unit, the controller also comes with a nice cut template. So I just need to align this nicely here and space it correctly. Tape it on, mark it, cut it out. And ideally, I would align this side of the controller with this side of the panel, like so. But that doesn't work because the wall on this side sits further in. So the cutout, if I align it like this, the cutout would go right into the wall. So obviously I can't do that. So I have to slide it inwards a little bit, so the cutout clears the wall that sits behind here. Cutting into my van, one of my least favorite activities. I think it looks great. Now I have to do a little cleanup. In addition to the panel up here, I want to install a separate switch, like a main switch, so I can turn the panel on and off. And now for the fun part. I have to remove this entire panel here, or at least tilt it forward as much as possible, and then fish the cable from underneath the bench seat into their respective cutouts here for the control panel and for the new switch. And here it is. This is what it looks from behind. I have 4 cables, or 4 bundles of cables, I should say, that I need to snake up. One is for the main switch, then the USB cable to run the fan unit, then the power cable for the control panel, and this one is the one for the temperature sensor that sits behind there where the batteries are. I'm using this fiberglass fishing rod thing, and I stick it down on this side here, and then hopefully it comes out on the other side and I can tape the cables to it and then pull it out. And success. Well, at least the first two cables are here now. And take number 2. Yep, I can see it. Cable number 3 and 4. I tidied up the cables up here, but before I put it all back together, I want to finish the electrical installation down in under the bench seat. And earlier in this video I said that the whole AC Infinity system can run on 5-volt USB power. Well, that's not entirely true. The fan in the back, it can run on 5 volt, and it does run on 5 volt. However, the controller up here, it needs a little more than that. It needs between 6.5 and 7 volt. So I'm changing my DC to DC converter to this one. Is that in focus? Maybe. This is an adjustable one, and I can set the output voltage to anywhere between 3 and 15 volt with an input of between 12 and 24 volts. So I dialed it in at around 7 volt, a little bit under 7. And well, now I will be using this to feed into the controller, and then the controller will feed into the fan. So now I need to plug this one with the spade connector into an open slot in the main fuse panel down here somewhere. And the last connection I have to make is the 7 volt connection up to the control panel. And this one I will not solder in. I will put this connector in, because if I ever have to adjust the voltage, the regulated voltage on this one, I can just unplug it and then dial in a new voltage while having the controller unplugged. So that's why this one gets this connector. And that is pretty much it. Now I have to put the panel back in place, plug the controller in, and then I'm done. Well, and finally, the controller. Have to find the screws. Well, and now the moment of truth. This button here turns on the controller, so that's good. It has a reading from the probe, 37 degrees. That is Celsius. It's about 1,000,000 degrees, I think, in Fahrenheit. Setting, this is my desired temperature. It is also 37 right now. If I turn it into auto mode, then I can use these buttons here to change my target temperature. Now the fan is off, and when the actual probe temperature gets to the desired temperature, or actually the maximum temperature, then the fan would turn on and it would try to cool it down. I can also set it to always on. I hear the fan running now in the back. And then I can use these buttons here to control the speed of the fan from the lowest setting to the highest one. And I can clearly hear the fan running at different speeds depending on those settings. Well, then in the off mode, I can use the buttons to control the brightness of the display. And then I can set an alarm temperature, so it's 42 degrees right now. If I can, oops, turned it off, sorry. I can lower the alarm temperature, and when the probe temperature reaches the alarm temperature, then I should hear some sort of a beep. Not sure if you heard that. It is beeping now because the probe temperature is higher than the alarm temperature. I've been through a couple of charging and discharging cycles by now, and on some of them I had the fans running and on others I had them turned off. I was watching the battery temperature and the BMS temperature though, and I can say overall, with the fans running, the batteries and the BMS stay significantly cooler than without the fans. And I know this is not a precise scientific experiment. BMS temperature depends on ambient temperature, on how much charge goes into the batteries, how much power is taken out of the batteries. But without the fans, I've seen temperatures as high as 75, even 80 degrees, even up to 82 degrees, which is the shut-off point. And with the fans running, I've never seen temperatures higher than 70 degrees. So overall, it is a worthwhile investment. Keeping the batteries and the BMS system nicely temperatured will prolong the life of the batteries and keep them happy. Happy batteries, happy van life. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.